So my name is Alejandro Munoz, but I go by Alex. My whole life I've gone by Alex. Um, Born in New York. I'm going to take it way back. Born in New York, grew up in Rhode Island, the smallest state in the nation. And I graduated high school in 2000, the year 2000, Y2K. Long time ago. What grade am I speaking to, by the way?
These are like 9 through 12.
Nice, nice.
Four,
It's a
14
good
to 18-year-olds.
Great age. All right, so I went to college I went to Boston College where I double majored in accounting and finance. Graduated in 2004. Went to work in New York City for one of the big four accounting firms, PricewaterhouseCoopers. Did that for a couple of years and realized I didn't like it. So I wanted to try something new. Both of my parents are Colombian, Colombia from South America, and I moved to Colombia and worked over there for 5 years before coming back to the States. I did corporate for a little bit longer in the US. I moved to Miami specifically. And then I wanted to try something completely different. I'm one who firmly believes that, if you have a dream, follow it, whether it's professional, personal, what have you. So I decided to become, this is going to sound weird, brace yourselves, a bartender in Miami. Miami's big on tourism. The hospitality industry is huge, so a lot of restaurants, hotels, bars. And in high school, that's when I first had the idea of becoming like a bartender. But I was able to realize or materialize that dream, if you will, late into my adult life. I think I was 33 when I became a bartender. So I did that for a few years. Absolutely loved it. One of my favorite jobs, because of the fact that you're constantly meeting people, hearing their stories. Actually, now I'm facing you guys. I was facing my laptop. So you're constantly interacting with people of all walks of life. You hear great stories. I had the opportunity. I worked at a pretty upscale restaurant bar in Miami, so I got the opportunity to meet a lot of celebrities. So that was pretty cool. And then realize, all right, I'm not going to be a bartender all my life. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that if you go down that route. But I want to try something else, get back into corporate, if you will, and got this job. I saw the post, the job offer online, and I really like the fact that so the company is called Ad Fontes Media, and it's basically we're rating the news. So we're reading, watching newscasts all day, and rating it, giving it a score, and to put it on our chart, which I'll show in a second. But that's basically how I got involved with the company. That's a little bit about me personally. So now I'll explain what the company is about. So the company Ad Fontes Media was founded, I believe, maybe like 5-6 years ago by a lady by the name of Vanessa Otero, who's a lawyer in Colorado. And seeing how polarized the country was, especially politically, she did this on her spare time. She would read the news and then classify it or put it like on a makeshift chart. And she would post that on her Instagram page, I believe, or one of her social media accounts. And then she got a following, and people asking her, hey, I want you to rate more news. So that's how the company started to grow, because she hired analysts, and that's what I am. I'm an analyst at the company, to read and rate news. And right now, I believe we are 60 analysts, so it's grown quite a bit. And we have partnerships with some big companies, such as Meta, formerly known as Facebook. And so yeah, so what we do is, when you get hired, she'll ask you, and she interviewed me personally, she'll ask you, what lean are you? Are you a left or Democrat? Are you center? Are you right leaning or conservative? And then, so she hires people from all the political spectrum. And then we'll have these meetings, and this is the crux of what I do. We have these meetings where 3 analysts will participate, one from the left, a center analyst, and a right analyst. And then we'll read simultaneously, but on our own, like my own computer. We work remotely, by the way. There's no brick and mortar office, so everything is virtual. And so we'll sit, read a particular article, and then rate it. And then there's always a facilitator to that meeting. And I just had a meeting and I was a facilitator. So then once all our scores are in, or the 3 scores, for bias and for reliability, that's what we're looking at. We're focused on if an article or any type of news content or media is biased to the left, center, or right, or how reliable the information is, the underlying information. So, and I'll show that chart in a second, so you get a better idea of what I'm talking about. But then we'll rate, we'll give it a rating for bias and reliability. And if we are within 8 points of each other, we'll just move on to the next article. We'll be like, all right, we're close enough. If not, if there's a spread that's larger than 8, then we'll enter into discussion, and we'll ask around, hey, Mike, why'd you rate it so low or so high? And then we debate. Sometimes some of the articles cover some hot button issues or very controversial issues, so we could have heated debates or conversations. But that's exciting. Everybody's really cool, down to earth, very knowledgeable. So yeah, so it never gets to the point where we're like fighting or anything like that, because that'd be ridiculous. But yeah, that's basically that's what I do. That's what the company's all about. Oh, and so with those ratings, with those scores that we give the articles, individual articles or videos, if it's a website that has a newscast or whatever, there'll be an average. Those scores get averaged out, and then we end up with an overall average score for the source. So let's say CNN, for example, will have an average score for that, for both bias and reliability. And that's it. It gets mapped on a chart, and people can, individuals, companies, whomever that has access to this chart, can see where these newscasts or news sources lie. And why is that important? That's important, and this is the reason also, other than the polarization, which I mentioned at the outset. The real big reason for this and why we exist and I'm doing what I'm doing is because the news was so polarized that advertisers, companies with a lot of money on hand, that would like to advertise on news sources before the internet existed and technology got so advanced as it is now. You had newspapers, regular, newspaper. You read the newspaper, the physical newspaper, and companies would advertise on it. You would see ads. But companies got away from doing that on digital newspapers because of the polarization, and that's affected the newspapers themselves, the companies, because they, if you don't have revenue coming in, they end up cutting people, so the staff becomes smaller, so the quality of the content you're producing is not as good. So that's the real reason. And journalism, let me put this parentheses in here. journalism, and I wasn't privy to this, or I didn't know this because like I said, I studied accounting and finance, which is totally business focused, and I really never knew about journalism other than when I used to pick up the paper or read something online. But journalism is fundamental, it's instrumental to the proper running of a democracy, because journalism is what exposes things that go on, that things that the government does. Without a free and fair journalistic realm, if you will, you wouldn't have a democracy. You'd go into some other structures of government that you see some other places around the world, maybe like Russia, Cuba, those countries come to mind. So journalism is really, really important to the functioning of a democracy, which the US is.